Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Today, we are covering a bit of a heavy case, okay? And so if you need a break from the heavy coverage, I covered the Bachelor paternity hoax thing. And so if you want to take a look at that, please do. Some of you all are joining me from that stream. This Saturday is a two stream Saturday. Thank y'all for hopping on over. I hope that redirect worked. But let's start with an overview of this case. So Robin Howington, this happened back in 2019. She has a at the time, she had a 2-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter, and something happened where she ends up calling 911 because her 5-year-old daughter has been shot. And sometimes I'll have to, instead of using a word, I'll have to say pew pew. And that means because the algorithm sometimes it restricts certain words, especially early in a video. And the weapon that was used in this case belonged to Robin. And she's going to have a story that she tells here on the stand that the prosecution has not heard yet. And her demeanor throughout this case, so I think when they played the 911 video, she cried and she seemed to really react to that. When there was certain testimony, she showed reaction to that. But when she's on the stand, we can very clearly see some of her emotions, and we can see some of this. There is going to be a trigger warning for SA. She alleges that before all of this, that she was doing community service, and that court ordered community service, and that the police officer that was transporting her, she has a claim that she was R word, that she was SA'd, and that is why she has a fear of the police and all of that. So when a defendant testifies, the prosecution gets to cross-examine them. And it's going to come up on the cross-examination. We are going to watch some of this. I just it is wild. And so we are going it was probably more than that. So it comes out that she was selling pills, and like the prosecution has their perspective on what happened. And we are also going to talk about the verdict. So I think she testified, I want to say I think it was on Thursday. I think it was on Thursday. Could have been on Thursday. My brain and days. But she testified. She was cross-examined. The defense rested. I believe they did closing arguments on Friday, and the jury came back within a few hours with their verdict. And we'll be talking about that today. Let me know. Yeah, Thursday. I thought so. Thank you. Let me know if I need to turn my mic up or down a little bit. I believe I can boost the audio on what we're watching as well. And let me just make myself smaller, and we will get right into this video. All right. So Robin is on the stand and she's being questioned by her lawyer. Let's start.
Okay, Robin, I want to talk to you a little bit about.
Okay. So we also have to talk about the fact that when she made the 911 call, she immediately said that it was a black man in a black SUV or black Cadillac, I think, or black. It might have been Chrysler 300. I think she said there was a black man and a Chrysler 300 that came into her house and shot her daughter. That is not true. That did not happen. There was no individual that did that. But that from the 911 call to get her daughter help, that was the first thing that she said. And the prosecution is going to come back. Yes, a black Chrysler. Exactly. And we are also going to talk about the facts. So she has biracial children. She dates Black men. And that does not mean that somebody can't still hold some. So I believe in either anti-racist thoughts or racist. Like she so a person can still engage in behavior that goes against that matches a stereotype, because with her making that claim, if the police had believed her, they could have randomly questioned Black men that were in Chrysler 300s, like she could have caused some harm based on that behavior. And so that's just like from the start there were just lies. And I'm going to go ahead and give you all my opinion now. In my opinion, all of her lies were to protect her. Okay? That's my thought, that's my opinion. I was going to say something important. I am a psychologist. This is not a psychological evaluation of this case. These are just my thoughts and opinions for educational purposes only. Let's hop right into the testimony.
Thursday, the 12th of September, 2019. Did something happen on that day?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened?
Antoine was supposed to pick Destiny up from school, and he did. Instead of keeping her till around 7,
Antoine is the daughter's father. So that's who Antoine is.
he came to my house instead and started acting irate because I had a new boyfriend that he didn't know anything about.
And how soon was this after he picked up Destiny from the school?
Not very long.
And so he was coming and dropping her off. Is that what happened?
Yes.
Did he and Callie get into a little argument out front?
Yes.
And as a result of that, did you ask him?
Did you see that look over to the jury? It's really interesting to me when defendants do that. And to me, they are trying to see what the jury I think they're looking for reactions, like to see how this is going. In my opinion, this feels a bit like an act. This is my personal opinion, okay? This feels like a big act, and even her crying, to me, in my opinion, it comes off as forced and like what you would expect a grieving mother to do and show. So I have had grieving mothers in my office, and I have seen them, I have supported them through breaking down. I have seen what this looks like in real life. What she displays to me seems forced and pushed. Those are my thoughts, my opinion. Let's keep going.
Him to leave?
Multiple times.
And did he leave?
No, sir.
As a result of that, his not leaving, what did you do?
I went into my house and got the gun and brought it outside and asked him to leave.
And what did he?
Okay. So she went and I think this was the day before, like this was a few days, or this wasn't the day of the actual incident. I think this was before the actual incident.
Do in response to that?
He took the gun from me and he took it apart.
What did he do with it?
And threw it on the ground.
What did he do after that?
He went to his car and attempted to back up and hit me.
And then he left.
Correct.
And what happened to the gun on the ground?
Okay, so to the person, so she is looking at the jury because the judge is okay. So I'm backwards. So she's looking so this is I can't do it because it's backwards. So she is looking over at the jury because the judge is up and is the other way. And you'll see her keep looking over to see their reaction.
On the ground.
Callie picked it up.
Let me stop you there. Callie is
My boyfriend at the time.
and his name is?
Daniel Hensley.
Okay. And he picked it up.
Yes, sir.
And what did he do with the pieces?
He put it back together.
If he hadn't been there, would you have been able to put the gun back together?
No, sir.
So after Antoine left and Callie picked the gun up, what did the two of you do?
Okay. So she's going to say that she didn't know where he put it. Like that is what she's going to say. Let's move a little bit further. All right, let's move to about here.
And on September 17th of 2019, when you were speaking with Wardlaw, and he told you several times that Gavin could not have reached that closet shelf, right?
Yes.
And you told him that
Okay. So Gavin is her 2-year-old, and this is who she is alleging pew-pewed his sister. Like she's alleging that this was Gavin, her 2-year-old, that her 2-year-old, while she was outside smoking a cigarette, that when as she was walking back inside, she saw a flash of light and that her 2-year-old was holding the weapon and that her daughter was, on the couch. Now, there was no blood on her, and to me, if that had happened to my child, I would have, like, picked them up while 911 is telling me to, like, do whatever 911 is telling me to do. Like, I would have touched and held my child, and it's my understanding that when the police got there, she was just kinda, like, sitting on the couch. They walk in, and they're like and she doesn't even so, like, normally, if there's an incident like that, sadly, police officers have responded to situations like this where the parent they're like frantically as soon as the police walk in, they direct the police to where their injured child is. She did not do that. The police had to ask her, "So what's going on?" And she just points over to the couch. Okay. All right.
he had gotten to the closet shelf because he would sometimes put on your high heels.
Yes.
So when he told you no, that wasn't true, do you recall what your response to him was?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I told him that I assumed
Oh, okay.
that Gavin had either moved a stool or the gun was not where I kept.
Take a second there. I want to make sure the jury hears either Gavin moved the stool or what?
So there are no tears yet. She will shed a few tears. Like I did, I was looking. I was looking for tears. She did shed a few, but the way she's expressing this emotion to me, it's it's coming off as forced to me.
The gun was not where I kept it.
You told the police, you told Riddle at the house, and then you told both of them in the interview room that you suffer from PTSD.
Yes, sir.
And is that true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she's going to say that she suffers PTSD because of the R word situation that happened. She ended up settling that case. The officer was charged with like I think like making a false. They weren't charged with the actual R word. The officer, I think, like it was something smaller. The officer, and she ended up receiving $13,000 with that case. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit because I don't want this stream. They've said the G word too many times. It's YouTube is probably already gonna say it's not advertiser friendly, but that's okay. I like that we're covering this.
You him and just give me money.
Okay. Yep. So that's where she's talking about that she ended up getting $13,000 from that case. We're gonna move ahead just a little bit. The cross examination was so good, I think. All right.
And after you get the kids inside, there's a fellow that comes to your door and he's there for 63 seconds or so, right?
Yes.
Do you know who that was?
Yes.
And who was it? Don't.
Just for anyone that hasn't seen her testimony. So she's talking about the day of the incident that her and the kids went to the park. And then when they got back to the house, there was a guy that was there. And she's going to say that she paid him for tinting her windows. The prosecution thinks he was there to buy to buy pills. Like that's what the prosecution thinks happens. We don't know what actually happened. The police didn't find like any evidence of her selling anything at the house, and so that's what her attorney is going to say. Her attorney to me, let's talk about that. Her attorney to me, his style was very, very aggressive. Her 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 attorney's style was just very, very aggressive. So the prosecution thinks the weapon was probably on the nightstand or something. Like the prosecution thinks that it was not well secured. She's saying it was in a bag in the closet. So she says it was in a black last time where she normally kept it was in a bag in the closet. This is my PSA. If you do have a weapon, make sure to have it in a lockbox. Have it be one of those like fingerprint ones that you can open very easily and quickly. Make sure to keep the safety on. So individuals that have things in the home. So I have lots of family that are responsible owners, and that's where I have a family member that is in the military and has PTSD, and he likely has multiple weapons in like but all of his weapons are secured. He makes sure that the children do because he has teenagers, like I think 12 and maybe 14 or something. He makes sure that nobody else has access to them, and everything. He's the one that I found out about that like fingerprint safe, like that's where he keeps his, and it's only his fingerprint because there are people in the home that have mental health concerns, and he wants to make sure that they don't have access to his weapons. And so, all right, let's keep going.
Don't say the last name because it's being broadcast, but if we need to, we can get that.
His name was Jay.
Excuse me?
Jay.
Jay. And why was he there?
He was getting payment from where he tinted my windows on my car
When did he tint the windows?
the day before
And why didn't you pay him on Friday?
because there was bubbles in the tint and I wanted to know if they were going to go away or not.
And did he come and fix that, or did he just?
No, I didn't pay him as much as he originally asked me to.
So after you got through dealing with Jay, what happened? What did you do?
I made sure the kids was okay and I went outside to smoke and move my car.
When you came back from moving the car, what did you do?
I personally wouldn't have left my 2-year-old inside by themselves where I couldn't see them. It's just me personally, but I'm weird. I'm weird. Uh the prosecution is going to have an issue that she left her children in a home with a weapon that was unsecured. That is where the neglect comes in. Y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. I believe they tried to charge her with first degree murder, I think. Like I think they tried to charge her with that. And they ended up having to settle on something less. And the judge had said if they had charged her with felony abuse, that would have strengthened their argument for a first degree charge. Because we'll get to the things that she was actually that like we'll get to the verdict and what the verdict was.
I was walking up to my house and it's a glass door. And I seen a flash of light go off. And when I walked in, Gavin was screaming and crying. And the gun was on the ground.
The prosecution is going to do a great job ignoring all of these tears. And I think a female, and I don't know if there was a male prosecutor too, but I know a female cross examines her, and it didn't come off as rude. In my opinion, it didn't come off as rude or anything. It was just like they just waited, like they would wait a second. But to me, this emotion seems forced, and she keeps looking over at the jury. And I'll never forget with the Amber Heard jury, because Amber Heard did a similar thing where she would show emotion and she would look at them like, and the jury just felt that like that was just very, very odd. Normally when people are showing emotions, they sometimes want to hide it. They want to like, because we normally we don't want to be showing emotion like this in public. Um and that's where, in my opinion, it feels more like a forced emotion, like, and I'm sure that she is sad in real life that her daughter is gone. Like, I'm sure that she's actually sad about that. To me, she is trying to save herself, in my opinion. That's what she's trying to do with all of this, and she is trying to protect herself, in my opinion.
There's some tissues up there in that box.
I think there are a few tears. I think there are.
And did you see where Destiny was at that point?
Yes, she was on the couch.
And was she moving at all?
No,
Did you try to speak with her at all?
multiple times.
I'm sorry.
Multiple.
It's my understanding that what she immediately did was she went and hid the pew pew outside, because when she was at the hospital or somewhere, like at some point, she's texting people asking them to get rid or like to find the pew pew. So okay.
Multiple times.
Did you,
And I hope I'm glad that my chat, so I hope that this doesn't come off so, I am not her therapist. So if I was her therapist and she was showing these emotions, I would, if this was our very first session, I would be taking note that these emotions seemed forced, but I wouldn't bring it up the first session. Now, once I had a little bit of rapport, I would kind of point out some of these inconsistencies with the how they're expressing their emotion, and that like it's ew, I would point out some of those things if I was this individual's therapist.
did she ever respond to you at that point?
No, sir.
No. What was going through your mind at that moment?
Couldn't fucking believe what was going on.
What did you do?
I got the gun and I took it outside
Why did you take it outside?
because I didn't want it to cause any more harm.
And if the video shows that that happens at about 8:53:53, 8:53:54, you're calling 911. Do you recall if you were doing those two things at the same time?
Yes,
My
I
bad.
was.
Elaine, turn on your mic. Thank you. At least I noticed it quickly. I was in the chat with Natalie lawyer chick. She was talking for like a whole minute and a half. And she wouldn't go back and say whatever she had said. She was just like, I'm not going back and saying it again. So somebody asked a question about uh if I were to ask those questions and and if somebody was giving this type of reaction or response, what would I derive from that psychologically? And that's where there's a disconnect between her actually feeling the emotion and what she's saying and what she's thinking. Like, so that's where, as a therapist, if I had a good relationship with the person, I would say, I wonder if you went into self-protection mode. Like, I wonder, like, when talking about your daughter, I'm seeing you get upset, but I'm not, what you're saying doesn't connect with the emotion that you're describing. Help me understand that. And that would be within a therapeutic setting. And if the person got defensive and mad, so for me, individuals that have histories and have individuals like her, in my opinion, sometimes they have some antisocial traits. And what I mean by antisocial is just that they don't respond the way that the rest of us would. I do think she was legit in that moment upset. And this happened back in 2019, and we're now in 2023. And she's lived these years without her daughter. She's about to throw her son. Like she's going to say that her 2-year-old son did this. And I think we often try to put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, because for me, I would never be saying in court publicly, uh, that this, because her surviving son might see some of this. And I can't imagine the therapy, the support that an individual might kind of have. But to me, he was 2 and he didn't know. Does that mean he should not have had access to a weapon if that's what happened? What the evidence shows is that there was gunshot residue on both the child and on her, which means that she had to be within 5 to 6 feet of him when the pew pew went off. And so her story, in my opinion, does not match up with the evidence, and I think that's what the jury found as well. All right. Aw, sorry about that. Somebody said that their therapist missed their appointment. Aw, I hope that you're able to reach out to them to kind of figure out what happened. Um, so Buttercup, we're just talking about if I was doing therapy with somebody. Um, So I'm not a forensic psychologist. Doc Dr. G is a forensic psychologist. Now, I don't know if she would want therapy. So, in my opinion, she's saying she's upset, but to me, she's not coming off like she's upset. Everybody grieves differently, but to me, I don't see a grieving person, if that makes sense. And sometimes people with antisocial traits, they have trouble with expressing emotion. They have trouble with expressing emotion and kind of feeling what those of us would feel. Um, I'm not saying that she doesn't care, and just from what I've seen, what she's saying doesn't match my experience with working with a grieving parent. Her response does not match what I've experienced in treating outpatient grieving parents. So, uh, in my so she is going. Okay, so let's go ahead and say, so spoiler alert. So she is found guilty, like, and she's going to have to do a pre-sentencing evaluation and all of that, and they're going to determine her potential risk, and I'll be interested to see if anything flags in that about her potential risk in in the future. And so I don't know that it sounds like this was accidental. So to me, it sounds like this was a horrible accident. So the 2-year-old did have gunshot residue on their shirt, but I don't know how it got there. Um, in my opinion, Robin has told a lot of lies, and I don't know what to believe. And I don't know that we'll ever know exactly what happened in this case. I don't think we'll ever really know. So, okay. Let's get back to this part.
After you put the gun outside and came back in, what did you do?
I got a towel and put it on that snake.
And when the officer, you saw the video when the first officer arrived, Officer Cummings, correct?
Yes, sir.
He testified that when he walked in the door, that you were sitting on the couch near Destiny on the phone.
Yes, sir.
Who were you talking to on the phone at that moment?
The 911 dispatcher.
Sure.
Do you remember what the last words you said to the 911 dispatcher were?
They're here.
So when he walked in and saw you on the phone, that's when you're telling 911 that they're here.
Correct.
Now, we're going to talk about that 911 call. When you made that 911 call, did you know Destiny had been shot?
Yes.
And you told them that a black male, unknown black male, entered the door and fired a shot.
Do you see the emotion leaving her face as he's asking this question? Do you see the emotion? Like the emotion is about to leave because we're no longer talking about Destiny and we're now talking about what she did. Okay. So let's listen to this part.
Shot and shot Destiny.
Yes.
Why did you tell that story to 911?
She didn't want to get into trouble.
I didn't want Gavin to live with the fact that he had shot his sister for the rest of his life.
I think it was because she didn't want to get into trouble. I don't think so. The question was, why did she lie to the 911 operator? And so for the person asking me for the real tears, I had to zoom in. Okay. Like to find the real tears, I had to like zoom in so far and I don't know that I can do that. Like so I stream a little, so I am not a professional YouTuber. Like I don't know how to do all the things. So I don't know how to like zoom in far enough to be able to while I'm in full screen. I might be able to take it out of full screen. If I see a tear, I will zoom in. I could have sworn that like I saw a little something. I don't know. I don't know. But like it's just it comes off as extremely fake. And to me, in my opinion, I think she lied because she did not want to get into trouble. Because then she ends up saying that it was Antoine, that it was Destiny's father that was the person. And so yeah, I never saw her nose running. Um and I think she had, like, good skin. Like, I think like, I don't know if that's makeup. I don't know what that is, but, um welcome, welcome. Hey. Alright. So, I rewinded it back because I was talking over it, but I don't believe for a second that she was trying to protect her child, in my opinion. In my opinion.
Why did you tell that story to 911?
Because I didn't want Gavin to live with the fact that he had shot his sister for the rest of his life.
She's looking at the jury.
The story that an unidentified black male had shot from the door was not true, was it?
So, but when she's wiping, so that wiping, I could not see a tear. If y'all see a tear, please let me know. But and they're gonna get to this, and we are gonna talk about it. Okay, we are gonna talk about this.
No, sir.
And you remember the interview that you had that night later on, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember Mr. Riddle telling you that same?
So it was a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. Her 5-year-old daughter is the one that is deceased. That yes. So the one was 2 and one was 5.
Saying a black man shot your child was racist. He thought that was racist.
Yes, sir.
Are you racist?
No, sir.
Callie is your boyfriend, right?
Yes.
What race is Callie?
African American.
What race is Destiny's father, Antoine?
The same.
And Gavin's dad, African American?
Yes, sir.
And let's be honest, your two children, what race are they?
They're biracial, white, African American.
I might lose a few people for saying this, but I will not shy away from the truth. So the truth is, a person can have biracial children and have beliefs that and have bias and have judgmental negative thoughts about Black people or continue stereotypes. And as a white woman blaming it on a Black man, to me, she was trying to be believed. She was trying to change that narrative of don't look at me. It was anybody but me. And because that guy that was at her house earlier, he could have been arrested and charged, and he had nothing to do with anything that happened during. I don't know if it was a Black man. I'm assuming that Jay was, if that's even the person's name, because the prosecution's going to say this is our first time hearing about Jay. Like this her testimony today is the first time the prosecution is hearing any of this. And um so just so we are all very, very clear, just because so everybody I believe as a Black woman, I can hold racist thoughts about other Black people. I have to actively work on how I think and perceive people. So if I think of a criminal and I automatically picture a Black man, that's a racist thought. And if that's my automatic belief, because now compared to population sizes, African American men and women do make up a large portion of the incarcerated population, but compared to the population at large, they don't make up most. So there are more Black men that aren't in jail than are in jail, if that makes sense. And an individual is more likely to be harmed by somebody of their own race or somebody that lives, because it's normally proximity. So I'm more likely to be harmed by the race of a person that lives close to me, because normally when bad things happen, it's in your neighborhood. So if I live around a lot of um because sometimes people get it in their mind that certain races are more dangerous or certain people are more dangerous. And there is a famous study called the Clark-Doll study. Clark-Doll's study. And this happened back in, I want to say the 80s. I could be wrong, but what they did is they showed little Black children, a white child and a Black child, and they asked Black children, which one of these is good? And the Black children pointed to the white child. Which one of these is bad? And they pointed to the Black child. Which one of these is smart? And they pointed to the white child. Which one of these is dumb? They pointed to the Black child. And they did this across races. And the individual that was most likely to be pointed to and portrayed as being dumb, bad, was more likely to be the darker skin the person was, that was who the kids were more likely to point to. And then the one who was good and positive was more likely to be the fairest skinned person. These are the stereotypes that we have to actively work against. And so that's why having conversations and these beliefs are seen in children as young as 5 and 6. Kids start to internalize some of this. And so all right. All right. So I give my thoughts. Um let's keep going.
And let's talk for a minute about this gun outside the house. You did put the gun outside the house, right?
Yes, sir.
I think later she says that she did put it outside.
Don't leave.
So I honestly think it was an accident. I think it accidentally went off. She's gonna say that she didn't know how to use pew pews. She did not know how to use them. She kind of blames Callie, that her the boyfriend at the time, that when Antoine took the weapon apart, because I think she pointed a weapon at him. Yeah, I might be getting I'm remembering Antoine. I'm bad with names. I believe that was his name, but that Callie put it back together and the safety wasn't on it. And to me, nobody should have a weapon that does not know how to accurately use it. So when Antoine took it apart, her allegation is she didn't know how to put it back together, and Callie, the boyfriend at the time, put it back together and they put it away, and she doesn't know where they put it. Once again, distancing herself from any responsibility. And I don't believe it. I do think it was an accident. I don't think it was on purpose. And that's what I think. So I talk a lot about transracial adoption, and I've done videos on it. And individuals that adopt people that are not from their culture, they have to be really, really aware of making sure to connect them with the community that they were born into, helping them. Because racial identity is real. I told a story to a client, and it's true. So, I actually had, when I was in elementary school, I had a friend who was racist. She told me she didn't like Black people. And I said, well, I'm not Black. I was white when I was born. And that's a story that my family has like always, because I didn't have any color when I was born. My mom was like Black. My mother was the color of my shirt. I was so light and I had gray eyes that they would not give me to my mother. This is a story that had been told to me over and over again. So when this little girl said she doesn't like Black people, I'm like, that's not me. I'm not Black. And my mom had to sit me down at like 7 or 8 years old and be like, Patrice, like, yeah, like you are Black. Like yes, yes, you are. And so this like colorblind mentality that people try to have sometime, it's actually harmful. So my goal is to see color, but not to judge. I want to see people, and then I want to fight any assumptions that I have. If I see somebody that looks different or that is different, my brain is going to want to try to put them into certain categories. And I don't want to have that be an automatic process. I want to be aware of any bias that I have. And we all have bias. It's our brain's shortcut system. Okay? All right. And so let's keep going. Since we talked about the Clark doll test, the blue eye, brown eye test, that was a test by Jane Elliott that talks about bias with teachers. And what they did was that they said that all the blue eyed children, so Jane Elliott talks to a class of kids and says all the kids with blue eyes are really smart, and the kids with brown eyes, y'all are all really dumb, and like it's going to be hard for you to learn anything. And they give the kids a test, and the kids with the blue eyes score higher, and the kids with the brown eyes score lower. And then she says, oops, I got it wrong. The brown eyes are actually the smart ones, and the blue eyes are the dumb ones. And they give the test again, and then the blue eye kids score low, and the brown eye kids score high. And so what a person thinks they can do, they've also done that with teachers, where they've told the teachers, these are the really smart kids, and these are the kids that are never going to get it. Like these are the kids that are low. And what they realize is the teacher spent more time when a kid that was identified as smart was struggling, the teacher would spend more time with that student. But the kids that were identified as dumb, when they were struggling, the teacher would be like, "Oh, well, they're not going to get it," and the teacher would not dedicate as much time to that individual. And And so, like, bias is really important. It's something I'm passionate about talking about, dismantling, because I think the more that we're aware, like, that's how we can help change things for real. Gonna fast forward.
This gun and where it was outside your house. Right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you a picture of that gun, which is in a collective exhibit 26. And ask you, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Is that where you put that gun?
Yes.
Okay, so she did put it
Inside
outside.
that shrub.
Yes.
Was it your intention to hide the gun under the shrub?
No.
Were there other shrubs back further along that wall?
Yes.
I do think her lawyer prepared her well for everything. Like, that's about as much of that part as I can take. Y'all know sometimes that's as much of it as I can take. Let's get to the cross examination, okay? And towards the end, she gets Robin, the defendant in this case, keeps being like, "Ma'am, don't understand." Like the to me, she um we'll talk about it when we see it. So let's start with this part.
We're going to get into the story that you've told for the first time today here in just a minute. But before we get into that, I want to back up, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to take you back to the very first story that you told to the 911 caller. When you called 911, we'll talk about that.
Yes, ma'am.
You initially said that it was an unknown black male. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that that black male had essentially broken into your home, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that that black male who you'd never seen a day before in your life shot your daughter in cold blood right in front of you. Is that correct?
Yes. You
said that Gavin was in the room. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said that when this unknown black male who drove a black, what you believe to be Chrysler 300, you recall telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said that he looked at you and his eyes got really big and that he just ran out. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was your initial.
And that doesn't even make any sense. Like, why would somebody that you don't know come into your house, shoot your daughter, and run out? Like, that doesn't even make any sense to me in my personal opinion. But I don't, that doesn't even make any sense to me. Somebody asked why Antoine didn't testify. So I do believe that her and Antoine, there might have been like a domestic history between the two of them. And so I think the prosecution kept him off the stand for that part to possibly not. And also Antoine didn't see it. Antoine wasn't there. Antoine doesn't know what happened. Or so I don't think Antoine's testimony would have helped their case in any way. And she portrayed Antoine as somebody that she was scared of, as somebody that was blah blah blah. And so I think they didn't find that, they didn't think his testimony was needed, that they had enough forensic evidence in this case, and enough because she consistently lied from time to time. There are interrogation videos. They play those videos and they are very, very hard to hear. Okay. Like I can't hear like the interrogation videos because sometimes the lawyer is going to walk away from the mic and she's going to be hard to hear. And so that's why, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Story to 911 when you first called, correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about the 911 call. You just testified that you are walking up into your house and you see the gun go off when Gavin shoots Destiny. Is that what you just testified to?
Yes.
And you've seen the video, the surveillance video from your neighbor's house.
Yes.
Have you not? You've seen that you enter your home at 8:50.
Correct.
Correct? And now you know that the 911 call was not placed until over 3 minutes later at 8:53:53. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you go back in your home after seeing your daughter get shot by your 2-year-old son, according to you today, and you wait almost 4 minutes to call 911. Is that your testimony?
I had to find my phone. It had fell in between the cushions in the other living room.
Okay.
She's always
So-
the victim too.
You see Gavin get shot, you call 911 4 minutes later. But again, you don't tell any of this to the police initially, do you?
No, ma'am.
You blame it on some stranger that you've never seen before in your life that came in and shot your 5-year-old in cold blood. That was your story initially.
An unidentified person, yes. To protect my
Unidentified.
Okay, so I have to. Her testimony is hard for me to watch because, like, it's just it's hard. So this is my mama. Okay, so my father is kind of lighter skinned. My mom, and I'm kind of right in the middle. My child is darker than I am, and one of my fears in helping him navigate the world is that people might see him and assume something just based on how my child looks. And so sometimes you will see me get a little emotional when we're talking about things like this, because I also work with kiddos, and I've seen it in my practice where one kid does something and doesn't get into trouble, and then another kid does the exact same thing, and they're like expelled from school. They have charges pressed against them, and the only difference is that like one kid was liked at school, the other kid like wasn't really liked by teachers, or one kid, and there are just these differences. Somebody mentioned that like what they wouldn't give you to your mom and you came out of her. And so I think what happened is she had me, and then they took me to the nursery, like they took me to like clean me off or something, but then they were like, this can't be her baby. And my dad wasn't in. So my parents were going through a divorce at the time, and I've talked about it on some of our podcast episodes. Um, she would not let him in the building. So like her blood pressure would go up when he got close to the building, because like they're going through a divorce, and he's a safe person, but like she was done, and she did not want him there. She'll later talk about the fact. So my mom will talk about the fact that she got really sick a few months after I was born, and I had to go live with family. So we were in one state, and I had to go to another state to live with family because she had to recover from surgery. And having me ripped from her like that, she was like, I will never keep my child from her father. Like if he wants to see her or any of those things, like I'll always make sure that he has whatever access he wants. And so that's some of our story. We have told more about our story on some other channels. And as so I was raised by a phenomenal mom, and no mom is perfect, and me and my mom have talked about things that she's learned or things that she might do different nowadays, and how she broke certain cycles, and then I'm breaking cycles. And so I really, really like, this is a safe place for cycle breakers, people that are trying to do things different. To me, Robin is stuck in that victim mode, that nothing is her fault. Nothing is on her. Everything is everyone else's fault. And she's not taking responsibility or accountability for anything. If she had been honest about what happened from the start, and that it was an accident, if it's true that the 2-year-old did accidentally do this, I don't know that her charges would be as serious as the charges that she's facing because of all of the lies. And I don't blame that on PTSD. Like I think it goes deeper, in my personal opinion. I think it goes deeper than that. And so we'll keep going.
Our
Identified
son.
black male is what you said, is it not?
Yes, ma'am.
In a black Chrysler 300, you were pretty specific about that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that he wasn't wearing a hat,
Yes, ma'am.
that he was a little bit darker complexion than Officer Wardlaw. You actually you described it even to that extent, correct?
Clarify, now we're on to the interview with Officer Wardlaw. We're talking about the 911 call. We could break that up so she knows what she's being asked.
All right, we'll rephrase the question. At some point in time, did you later describe him as being darker than Officer Wardlaw?
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
ask your next question.
All right, so that's 911. So police get on scene.
Judge, that's not one 911. She says
Okay,
911.
I apologize.
Rephrase your question.
Going back to immediately after the 911 call was placed. Police arrive on scene about 3 minutes after the call is initially placed. Is that correct?
I assume.
You've seen the videos.
Yes.
Okay. And you said just now that you didn't even realize that Officer Cummings had taken Destiny outside until the trial today. Is that correct? That's what you just
Yes.
testified to?
But
Yes.
that's not true today. He testified on Tuesday.
Okay.
We need to, if we're gonna-
Until the trial.
Her attorney her attorney, but he's trying to cut up. He's trying to break the prosecutor's flow, I think, and get her frustrated or give his client time to settle or think. Like he's doing his job as a defense attorney. Some of his tactics to me could have rubbed the jury the wrong way. And so defense attorneys have to be careful with stuff like that.
Trials, her testimony was she didn't realize that Officer Cummings had taken Destiny out. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes.
All right, ask your next question.
And so at 8:56:42, so within about 30 seconds of Officer Cummings arriving, you were on your phone trying to call Callie.
Yes.
Is that why you didn't pay attention to the fact that he was taking your daughter outside?
No.
But again, your daughter's outside at some point and you don't even know she's out there. You don't even know that the police officer has taken your daughter that's been shot outside.
I had went out there and asked if she was okay and if Gavin was okay. That was also on the video that you just spoke of.
Okay, but again, Ms. Howington, you just testified that you didn't realize that Destiny had been taken outside because you were tending to Gavin. Was that not your testimony just now?
Yes.
Okay, so you knew where Gavin was,
Yes.
according to your own statement just now. But you didn't know that the officer had taken Destiny outside to wait for the ambulance. Until the trial, you didn't know that.
No.
But you were on your phone.
I will also say, so I've covered cases like this, and sometimes when a parent has a negative relationship with the father, to me, I do think I don't see any signs that she didn't care about Destiny at all. Like I won't go that far. But in general, I am saying that she seems to be a lot more because even the way that she talks about Gavin isn't because she's saying that this is that he's the one that did it, and that's why she's not guilty. But it's like, wait a minute, like you're his mom, you're the one. It's your home. He found your weapon in your home and did like no, like to me, this is 100% on her. If I was on the jury, I would have found her guilty of every. Like it's just like to me, it was very clear to me.
Trying to call Callie.
If that's what it says, then yes, I went out there and they told me to step back, that they were doing everything that they possibly could.
Okay. So let's talk about when you meet Officer Riddle for the first time at your house before you are taken to UT hospital. Okay. You once again make a claim that it is an unknown individual, an unknown male, broke into your house and shot your daughter in cold blood, didn't you?
Yes, to protect my son, I sure did.
Okay. You didn't say anything about the gun being outside at that point, did you?
No.
Again, you're sticking with the story that it's this unknown man. So to the police officers, they think that there is a murderer on the loose based on your statement, correct?
Yes.
And that statement that you made was made prior to you ever talking to a law enforcement officer that night.
Yes.
So you are the one that put this idea that this was a murder in the investigator's head, correct?
That's what you want to say, yes.
Well, ma'am, it's not my.
I'm sorry, I can't. So I'm not laughing because so to me, the links that she goes when presented with a fact to then distance herself from a fact. She's the one that said, somebody broke into my home and murdered my daughter. Like she's the one that said that. And she's the one that got the police looking for like this, for somebody that would do this. But like, what? Because she if they would have investigated it as an accident if that's what she had said from the start. Oh, so the 911 call, it's very to me, it's a little traumatizing. So I try to cover these things in a way that we can like minimize the but if you want to go out and watch the full testimony, the full thing, please go out and listen to it. Also, the audio to me was hard to hear. Um, and so that's why I'm not playing it, but she might say, "Let's listen to that part again," because anytime that she won't agree with something the prosecutor is saying, the prosecutor plays some evidence that says exactly what the prosecutor was saying.
Not my words, okay? Are you the one that told police officers that someone had came in and murdered your child?
Yes.
And so that is the reason that these officers treated this as a murder investigation, is it not?
Yes, but I was trying to protect my son at any cost.
Okay.
It just looks very fake to
Now,
me.
you also
It does
said that
it
the
does not.
man that came to your house, kind of in the interim, you call that an individual by the name of Jay. You
Yes.
said that you were paying him for window tinting.
Yes.
Again, your daughter was shot September the 14th, 2019, correct?
Yes.
How many times did you tell the officers about this Jay individual?
I don't recall.
You never told them about Jay, did you? You have to answer out loud for the court reporter.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So the very first time that we're ever hearing about who this mysterious individual is that's in your home for 63 seconds is when you're sitting on that stand right now.
Yes.
You didn't tell officers that night who was there, none of that. Correct?
Correct.
Also, I don't think she was aware that her neighbors' cameras were catching her on film. So, like, the reason why they know where her car was and that this J person came and all of this, some of the neighbors had cameras. And this was back in 2019. I think more people have cameras now outside their home than had them back in 2019. And so,
Okay, so then you're taken to, after Detective Riddle gets on the scene, you are taken to UT Hospital, correct?
In a police car, yes.
All right, and you've seen that video, correct?
Yes.
And you've heard your own statements on that video, right?
Yes.
Where you were in the back seat on your cell phone, correct?
Yes.
And you've said here today that you were on the phone with Callie,
At one point, yes.
and you're telling him to go get the gun.
Yes.
Now, again, you stated that you were trying to protect Gavin. Is that your testimony here today?
Correct.
Do you remember telling the officers during that first interview, right after you left the hospital, that the reason you put the gun outside was because you were afraid you would get in trouble?
exactly.
No.
You don't recall
Exactly.
telling officers that you were scared that you would get in trouble, and that's
No,
why you
ma'am.
put the gun outside?
No, ma'am.
No emotion, and that makes so much more sense. To me, it makes more sense that that would be the reason why she would do that.
All right, so once you get to UT Hospital, you are allowed to keep your cell phone, right?
Yes.
The same cell phone that you just used in the car on the way there to try and get somebody to come get that gun.
Yes.
And once you realize that at some point officers may want to search your phone, that is when you go in the bathroom. Correct?
Correct.
That is when you try and get a completely innocent person involved in your mess. Is that right? Trying to give your phone away to a person who knows nothing about you or this situation.
Yes.
You were trying to give your phone to an individual who again, knew nothing, and you're trying to give incriminating evidence to a completely innocent person in that bathroom.
Yes.
And when she wouldn't take it, you broke it.
I don't say break it. I put water on it.
You didn't break it? You
I
didn't break
don't
your phone?
recall.
So, it doesn't it's so easy to just tell the truth. Like, when you lie, when you lie, it just makes it worse. So, I love to talk about helping people. recover from situations like this. Um, if what she is saying is true, and we will never know because the only people in that home were Robin, the defendant, Destiny, who's no longer here, and Gavin, who was 2 years old. So if I tell a 6-year old, you did this when you were like, we can create false memories, and that can be really hard. And depending on the situation, if they did get him into any play therapy or anything, and I don't know if they did, because sometimes after situations like this, witnessing your sister even accidentally, or if I was the one that did it, getting that child into trauma therapy would be really, really important. We normally use play because kids normally act out things with play. And that's where normally when people are interviewing children, they'll sometimes give them toys, and sometimes kids, they won't talk about what happened, but sometimes we'll watch their play. Their play doesn't always necessarily mean that that's exactly what happened, but if right after this, if he consistently was playing and mommy was pew-pewing sissy, then, like, I would think that's probably what happened. If he, after a situation like this, if he was playing and he was the one that was kind of doing that or whatever. But 2-year-olds have no concept of death. Really, children before the age of like 8 or 9, they really struggle with the concept of the finality of death. And when I mean by finality, the fact that you don't just respawn, the fact that, like, you don't just kind of come back. You can't just get right back up. And so that's why it can be difficult when a kid under a certain age does some stuff psychologically, developmentally, they're not able to understand that if I do this, this person is gone forever. And I don't know what type of games he was watching. I don't know what type of situation, because, like, if this child, if at 2 years old, if he was exposed to media that, like, if they let him watch Fortnite, or like if they let him watch things with pew pews in them, and because kids do what they see, or like if he had toy pew pews around the house. So my child did not get his first toy pew pew until he was I think 6. I think it was 6, and I didn't want him to get it because I am still traumatized. There's a little boy. Oh my gosh, the name. It was a little boy out in Ohio. Oh, I know. Tamir Rice, 12 years old. That case has haunted me for a very long time. And so, as a mother of a Black child, I had a lot of trouble letting my child even play with weapons. And I didn't, like, until he was 6. He has like a little Fortnite, and it's orange and blue, like it's clearly not a real one. Like it's clearly like a toy thing. It doesn't even have the darts that go in it. We bought it at a garage sale, and he had his money and he wanted to buy it, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna let him buy it." I think I already have it in like a giveaway pile because he really didn't play with it that much. I think I do have it because he doesn't watch media that has pew pews in them, even at 6. So I'm very mindful of, like, not exposing children to media that's beyond their developmental stage. That's my own personal thoughts. I hope that helps. But so if he did have any memories, trauma therapy, especially EMDR, or but this is still a childhood trauma, even if he wasn't the one that pulled it, or even if he did accidentally. To me, his mother is the one that should be held. It was her weapon. She was the one that didn't properly secure it, and she's the one that's going to go away for it. So yeah.
Breaking it, no ma'am.
All right. So when officers recovered your cell phone, I'll show you. It's been marked as Exhibit 48. This was the screen of your cell phone. Is it your testimony that you didn't cause this damage?
It was already broken.
So you had been using a phone like this?
Yes.
You didn't bend it in the bathroom before running water over
I
it?
don't recall that. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just do not recall that.
And defendants should also be very aware how you handle cross. The jury is watching that. And to me, she got very defensive and wouldn't answer basic questions. And to me, that's like, as if I was on the jury, I would be like, this isn't coming across as credible to me. It's just not.
So when you ran, did you run water over it under the sink or did you put it in the toilet?
In the sink.
The sink. Okay, so again, you are at UT Hospital. You know that your daughter is unresponsive at that point, correct?
Yes.
You said it yourself. You tried to speak to her. She was unresponsive, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You know that doctors are trying to do everything they can to potentially save their life, to save Destiny's life at that point, right?
Yes.
And your action is to go in a bathroom and try and get rid of your cell phone while your daughter is in that hospital fighting for her life. Is that correct?
Yes, they would not let me see her.
So after you leave UT Hospital, you then go back to KPD. We've seen that initial interview, and I want to go through that for a minute, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So you stated, and I think we've heard it a few times, you said that you told the officers that you were scared because you were raped. Is that what you think you said?
R word, sorry.
Yes.
If the recording shows
Okay, we'll keep
that
going.
you actually never said that you were scared, you said, it's not that I don't care, I was raped, right before Investigator Riddle kind of jumps up against Mad. Would that be accurate?
That mischaracterizes the evidence.
I try to fast forward past those words. And so they are gonna go back and forth. Um, and okay, let's get to this part right here. And so over and over, she is going to try, and I think, and I'll probably fast forward towards the end as well. Let's start again here.
All right. Rephrase your question and refer to whatever portion of the interview that you want to impeach her with.
At one point, did you say that Gavin took the stool and moved it in front of your closet?
Yes.
Did you then say that he reached up and got the gun?
Yes.
When the officers asked you how that was possible, did you not say that he could have put on your high heels?
No, I said he got my high heels out of the closet.
That's the
When
I
you're
don't
same.
talking
think
about
that
him
I said-
reaching the gun.
I wasn't sure how he got the gun. I just knew that he had got the gun.
Okay. So again, you said after you change it to Antoine brings a gun in, you finally do admit that it was a gun in your home that shot and killed your daughter, right? And you said that Gavin climbed up in the closet and got it out of, well, you didn't say the black bag at first, did you?
I don't recall.
And then, according to your own statement at that time, you moved the stool before officers got there back into the living room, right?
I don't recall that either.
You don't recall telling officers that?
Ma'am, I was not in my right mind at that time. I had just seen my baby shoot my daughter.
Ms. Howington, have you been paying attention? Have you watched your interview?
And she's gonna say this over and over again, and to me, it's in a way to try to get sympathy from the jury. People have asked about memory at 2 years old. So my first memories are probably go back to like 4 or 5. I have worked with young kids, especially kids that were involved with the foster care system, that sometimes talk about having memories as young as 1 or 2, because sometimes with a trauma, that memory can sometimes implant or stay. Sometimes our brains, we repress or we forget or we don't remember things that are traumatic. And so I don't know what this child now will think or feel or possibly remember. we normally remember more with language and pictures. And so that's why like showing kids pictures every year I do a year in review album where I like print out all of our pictures from the year. And sometimes I'll show my kiddo and the stories that I tell him about those pictures that I've shown him, that sometimes will like, oh yeah, I remember going to Disney last year, and Space Mountain, that was traumatic. Like my poor baby cried. Like, he was not ready. He only likes roller coasters where we're sitting next to each other. But if I'm behind him, like he's like, so he only does roller coasters where we're beside each other. He did all the other, like he did a ton of other roller coasters and was great. Space Mountain, not a fan. And so he remembers that one. And so yeah, so some people have memories as early as 3. It can be normal to have memories back to like kindergarten or 5. If people have childhood trauma, I've worked with people that didn't have memories before high school because their childhood was so traumatic. When our brains are in survival mode, our memory gets spotty. I will say that again. If a bear is chasing me, I don't need to remember the color of the flowers. If a bear is chasing me, I don't need to remember the house that I lived in, or like, so that's why in a stressful situation, recalling memories from stressful situations, sometimes there can be like false memories, or that's where eyewitness testimony isn't always 100% accurate. It's better than nothing, but it's really open to suggestion. And so that's why like interrogators have to be careful, I think. And that's where some of the people I follow will talk about how if you show somebody a picture of them doing something, their brain might try to create a memory connected to that thing. If my mom is still in the chat, I will sometimes ask my mom, it's like, did this happen? And she'll be like, girl, that never like it's true. Like it truly, like sometimes I'll be like, was that a dream? Is that something that really happened? I don't know. And so those are some of my thoughts. um, how do you think her son will handle the situation when he hears, oh, so she's the same woman that left a pew pew in his view. I think they got home, I think it was like 8:40 or something, and I think the kids were hungry. Her first thought was to take care of herself, and because to me, if I got home with my child at 8:40 PM, the first thing, and he hadn't eaten dinner yet. First of all, I'm gonna try to have him eat dinner before like 7, 8 o'clock. That's just my own personal thing. If it is that late, I'm first going to take care of my child and make sure that he's well taken care of. Those are just my thoughts. That's what I would do in a situation like that. I think there is, I hope he's with someone safe. I hope he is cared for and knows that he's loved. I hope he knows that it wasn't his fault. He did not do anything wrong. If a 2-year-old sees something, they should try to play with it. So, like, I try to make sure that our house is as childproof as possible. And then, so my child is very tall. So at 6 years old, he is already 4 feet tall. 4 feet tall at 6 years old. My 6-year-old wears a size 4 shoe. Like, he's like the kid is gonna be huge, he's gonna be really tall, and, so because he's so tall, I have to put things higher. If we did so I do have, like, if I have mace or if I have certain things, I make sure that it's out of his reach. I try to make sure that like medicine and just all of those things that those things are well taken care of. And our child's name is Langston, and Langston means long. And we didn't know that he was going to be so tall, but he definitely matches his name. All right. All right. I'm trying to see if I missed anything. Okay, let's keep going a little bit further.
Do you hear in court?
Somewhat, yes, but I don't want to remember any of this.
Well, I'm gonna have to play it for you again if you can't remember.
And then
That's fine.
jury. So that's when she's looking back to the jury. And I remember Amber Heard making very similar kind of like, I want to see them at the corner of my eye kind of things. It's going to be really hard to hear. I'm going to fast forward through a little bit of it.
Just from here to here. Just read that to yourself, and when you're done, let me know.
I think she's showing her testimony, or like the transcript of what she read. The transcript of one of her
Okay, yes,
interviews.
Okay, so now that you've read this, do you agree with me that when the officers asked you how Gavin got hold of the gun in the closet, you said he pulled, here you say a chair. Is that correct? Is that what you said?
Yes.
So this is where the emotion seems very, what we call superficial, because it's coming and going like extremely fast. Like 5 seconds ago, she was breaking down crying, and now she looks completely fine. And that comes across fake. It comes across fake.
And you said in the closet because he puts on my high heels. Correct?
Yes.
So in fact, you did say that.
I don't recall, but yes, ma'am, it's there.
Okay. So let's fast forward just a little bit here to your interview on September the 17th. Again, you maintain at that point that Gavin shot Destiny, right?
That's the truth, ma'am.
But then you change it up even a little bit more, and you said that you were in the kitchen and that Antoine, in fact, was not there. Is that right?
I don't recall, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I was not in my right mind. Some things I remember and some things I just don't.
Okay. Well,
I'm the victim.
I'm gonna play a portion of this clip, and then you tell me if you remember saying this.
To fix the roast or whatever, or get it out because they're doing it for like to.
The sound is horrible. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to fast forward. I can't hear it.
I think that,
Right?
yes, ma'am.
And you say that Antoine leaves, right?
I think that I was confused and everything was coming together from what happened on the 12th.
Okay. But in this statement, you would agree with me, what you just watched, you said that Antoine leaves, didn't you?
Yes.
And you said that after Antoine leaves, that's when Gavin gets the gun. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You say that you're in the kitchen of your home, correct?
Yes.
And that's when Gavin shot Destiny, right?
Yes.
All right, let's go to the next version. In that one, again, you now put Antoine back in the house. Do you recall this version? When Antoine and you get into it and he takes the gun from you, do you recall telling officers that?
Yes.
Okay,
So the prosecutor is doing a phenomenal job pointing out her past inconsistency, because to me, the prosecutor is saying, why should we trust you now that you're now telling the truth? Like, you lied about this. You started, it was a random black man. Then it was Antoine. And now you're saying it was Gavin. Like, why should we believe that you're telling the truth? And still throughout this entire situation, she's just like, feel sorry for me, feel bad for me, look at me. And that typically does not go over well with a jury. I will say that having no emotion at all, I think it was, y'all know me in names. Oh, I'm so bad with names. Why am I so bad with names? I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna think about these things before we go. It is the school pew pew situation out in Michigan. I'm going to my videos. The mom was found guilty. The dad is on trial now. Yes, I see her picture. Jennifer Crumbly. Yes. Jennifer Crumbly to me came off as having no emotion and just completely disconnected. And like she came off just very ugh. And I think that didn't go over well with the jury either. And so sometimes you can feel like you're darned if you do, darned if you don't. And that's where I think the cross examination, they all fall apart on cross-examination. Alec Murdaugh was probably like, but that's because he's just such, in my opinion, a narcissist. Like he's just like he's been doing an act all of his life. and fooling people and fooling juries and trying to get his way through manipulation and control all of his life. And I think if it hadn't been for that, if it wasn't Snapchat, if it hadn't been for that one video, he might have been able. But that video that had him at the kennels right before, that was it. And the jury said that video, that kennel video, that was they just couldn't get beyond that. Oh, but all right, we're gonna try to do a little bit more. She's gonna keep breaking down like that consistently. It's just gonna
So
happen.
now, after you previously said that he's left the house, you put him back in the house, and you say that that Antoine took the gun from you, right?
Yes.
And that at that point in time, you say that that's when the gun is shot, right?
Yes.
So now it's not Gavin once again.
I don't ever want it to be Gavin, ma'am. I don't want him to live with this. Do you not understand that?
I'm asking you what you said, okay?
Keep saying it though.
Again.
Keep saying it.
You're blaming Antoine here. You're making up a whole lot of facts. I want to be clear about this. The officers are not the one saying that Antoine's leaving, coming, going, none of that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It's you that's making up these facts, right?
They brought up Antoine first, and I just agreed with it.
Okay, they brought up that he might have been the shooter first, right?
Correct.
They didn't give you all these additional facts, did they?
No, ma'am.
They didn't put all that in your head, did they?
No, ma'am.
They also asked you multiple times whether or not you were the shooter during your first interview, didn't they?
I don't recall that.
You don't recall them ever saying, did you accidentally shoot your child, or we think you might have shot your child? You don't ever remember them saying that?
No, ma'am.
How convenient. Convenient.
We will come back to that as well. All right.
It's just really convenient.
Now let's talk about the gun. Ms. Howington, you just testified a moment ago that you received that gun from Callie a few months before this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you say 2 to 3 months, maybe?
Around about, yes, ma'am.
And you also just testified that within 2 to 3 months, you had never gotten that gun out before September the 12th, right?
Before September the 12th?
For September the 12th, when Callie and Antoine are arguing, I think you testified that you didn't have anything to do with that gun before then.
Correct.
You had not gotten it out.
Correct.
You had kept it in a bag in the top of your closet.
Correct.
Which is not secure.
Was Gavin in your room whenever you took that gun out of the bag on the 12th?
No.
Okay.
And I think she quickly said no, because if she had said yes, it would have been, he saw you do it, and that's why he did it. To me, her entire testimony is just self-preservation. It's just all about self-preservation. Somebody asked, what does it mean that she's like maybe shaking her leg, like she wants to get up and run? So I leave the body language analysis to Dr. G Explains. Spidey, behavioral art. Sometimes he does behavioral analysis. Rob, the from Law and Lumber, he's really good at behavior analysis. To me, she is uncomfortable, and I don't think she likes this line of questioning. And I think this is making her look bad, and her credibility is being questioned, understandably, because she's not. To me, she's not a credible witness, in my opinion. So we're gonna try a little bit more, and then I'm gonna hop ahead to the end because like it gets worse. If you think it can't get worse, then it gets worse. And once again, she goes from a ton of emotion to nothing, which it feels manipulative. It feels fake. It doesn't feel good when people kind of come in and out of emotion that way. Now, I have worked with trauma survivors where in therapy, they shut the emotion down, they open it up, and that is something that we end up working through in trauma therapy. This seems more performative to me. That's just in my opinion. It seems like an act that she's trying to portray a grieving mother that is trying to protect her son, but isn't. And trying to protect him, she's throwing him like out to the wolves, in my opinion, because she is literally blaming him for everything. and saying, but it's not my fault. Callie put it somewhere and I didn't know. Nobody, like nothing is her fault. Huge red flag.
Was this the first gun you'd ever owned?
Yes, ma'am.
Prior to September 14th of 2019, had anybody ever told you that maybe you were storing guns improperly?
Objection.
Approach the bench.
All right, so they're going to do a little sidebar. We will get to skip the sidebar. Thank you, Court TV, for adding like the stuff at the bottom. Okay, so let's just hop ahead to when like it keeps getting worse and worse over and over again because they just continue to attack her credibility, understandably.
Purposes, but you may not assume that this is.
All right, so I'm going to rewind it a little because she's going to ask a question that kind of gets at past bad acts, and the jury can't use that in determining whether she's guilty or
In
not.
the minutes leading up to your daughter being shot, he's texting you about pills, right?
He's texting me about pills.
Correct, right? He's texting you about pills. None of these, your testimony is that none of the pills that you're selling to junkies, those aren't your prescriptions.
I have PTSD. They don't prescribe pain pills for PTSD.
That you had
And she says that she's prescribed Buspar, and I think she said and she said a few other, I think she said another anxiety medication, and then she couldn't remember the rest of them. The police bring out all of her medications. She has a lot of different medications, but she's selling pain pills. That's the allegation. I think she admitted to that.
him anyway. That you had them to sell to him, even though you weren't prescribed them.
Yes.
Okay.
Same instruction from a couple days ago, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that Ms. Howington may or may not have done this is relevant for other purposes, but you may not assume that this is in some way suggestive of a propensity to break the law. Does everybody understand the distinction? Go ahead.
I also want to ask you about one specific thing that you said to Mr. E.
Get back to your mic, please. Get back to the mic.
Okay. So 926, go to my house, the back way, get my gun out of the bush under the air conditioner. Gavin shot Destiny, then come to UT, and I got you for free. Are you referring to pills at that point when you say I got you for free?
I assume so.
Would you agree that people who sell drugs sometimes have guns for protection?
Objection. She wouldn't know that.
If she knows.
If you know. Would you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement?
I don't know.
It's so funny because it's like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Because the prosecution's going to try to say it was her weapon for her protection because she's selling pills. And we will never know exactly what happened. There is a chance that the child could have got his hands on the weapon. In my opinion, I think she was in the home when it happened. Like she wasn't outside coming in from a smoke. I think she was likely there.
Talk
but-
to you about, I believe your attorney asked you about something that was said about a forensic interview. You recall your attorney asking you about that?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that you were scared because you weren't sure what that meant.
I mean, yeah.
So if the officer told you that it was literally just an interview, your testimony is that scared you enough to not tell the truth that night.
You just showed me pictures of you guys or someone taking pictures of my son while he was crying. So
me.
yes, I don't think that was anything that he needed to go through.
And
Looking
just to
at the
clarify,
judge.
you didn't see pictures of me taking pictures of your son.
Someone,
And you're saying pictures of your son?
yes, the ones that you showed.
They were introduced to Officer Thompson. They went to child health and had him standing against.
Okay. You're not testifying. Ask the next question.
Your Honor, I'm talking about the interview that night. They made a big deal about the fact that, that Officer Riddle mentioned a forensic interview. That interview didn't occur that night, so it can't be
You're not
that.
testifying either. Ask the next question.
Okay, so again, the fact that the officer said that your son would be interviewed scared you enough to where you had to lie that night.
I assume so, yes.
And you recall the officers telling you multiple times that they don't take 2-year-olds to jail, correct?
It didn't matter. Those pictures proved that no one really cared. They were taking pictures of my baby while he was crying.
What pictures are you referring to, Ms. Howington?
How am I supposed to get him?
Where was he when he was crying?
I don't know.
To me, the prosecutor is doing a phenomenal job not being moved by the way that Robin is presenting. And um, what Robin is saying doesn't, to me, her getting nervous about them interviewing Gavin is if she thought Gavin could actually tell the truth. To me, in my opinion, if he actually, because they can meet, so like a pediatric or like a forensic interviewer, that's where they bring in the toys, and that's where they kind of try to see what they can get. That testimony is really really hard to get into court because that 2-year-old who's now, this happened 2019. Oh, so like this child, you don't want to put a child on the stand if you can help it. And so it's just I'll keep it going.
Now, which interview are you referring to?
I'm referring to the very first interview.
I suspect it's number 47.
Sorry.
Are you talking about this picture
Yes.
where your son is just being measured against a wall?
He looks scared to death, and I'm pretty sure that he's crying.
What about this picture right thereafter?
Okay, but who's to say the time frame of that? The first one, he looks scared to death and crying.
In this picture, you're saying that your son looks terrified, right?
Yes.
But it's just, the only thing is a tape measure just being.
There was a great question about because I know that Karen is in the chat, and normally, like when defendants lie on the stand in their case, if they're found guilty, they're normally not going to charge them with perjury because, like, we know Alec Murdaugh likely. I don't know that I don't know that he can tell the truth for everything. Like, those are just my thoughts and opinions. So normally when they lie in their case and they're found guilty, chances of them being charged with perjury is going to be really really small because like they were found guilty of the bigger crimes. Now if a witness lies, and so I'm not a lawyer, so I should have started there, but I watch a lot of law stuff. If a witness lies, then sometimes they can threaten them with perjury. Kayla Montgomery and the Adam Montgomery, and the death of his daughter, Harmony Montgomery. We all have a lot of thoughts. We all don't think Kayla should have got off as easy as she did, but she was only charged with perjury for lying to the grand jury. They would never charge, like if Adam had testified and lied, I don't think they would have charged him with perjury. I think she was charged with lying to the police. So I think she was. So we'll hear the charges in just a moment. I'm only going to play about maybe less than 5 more minutes of this, and then we'll hop over to the verdict because she was charged with a crime related to the statements that she made to the police. Because it is better if you are arrested for something, don't do crimes, don't get arrested. But if somebody is arrested for something, if somebody is interviewed by the police for something, ask for a lawyer because when they say anything you do or say can and will be used against you in a court of law. It, like we see it all the time, where those initial statements, when people lie, or even if they tell the truth and things get like and that can affect the defenses that they put forward and all of that. And so it's better to just wait for your attorney, talk with an attorney, and then if you're going to talk with the police, have an attorney present. Those are just my thoughts.
Being held up beside of him, right? And for that reason, because your son got a tape measure held up beside of him, you said that you had to lie about what happened. You had to protect him from a tape measure.
No, that's not what I said, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware that the reason that we had to take those photographs of Gavin is because you lied and said that he got the gun by using a
I
stool?
did not lie.
You didn't lie when you said
I
that Gavin.
assumed that Gavin got a stool because I was not sure how he got the gun to shoot his sister.
Ma'am, do you recall saying that you saw the stool at your closet and moved it back before officers got there?
Not right off, no.
If you said that, would that be a lie? If you said in your first interview that you saw the stool at your closet and that you moved it before officers got there to help Destiny, would that have been a lie?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Okay, we will come back to that one as well. We'll find it and come back to it.
I'm going to skip ahead
Do
a
you
little bit.
remember when you went back
Wait a
to
minute.
the house after you had been interviewed and the officers put the stool there?
From the pictures.
But you don't remember ever going back?
Antoine,
Okay. You were the first one to say Gavin was the shooter, correct? The police didn't do that, did they?
I don't recall.
Okay. They didn't say that Antoine went and got the gun from your closet, did they? You said that, right?
I don't recall that either, ma'am.
Okay, well, if that's what's on your interview, would that be accurate? If you
Yes,
say
ma'am.
that Antoine went and got the gun from your closet, would that be an accurate statement or an inaccurate statement?
I guess accurate.
It would be accurate. Miss Howington, you've just testified he wasn't there.
So what are we getting at, ma'am?
If you
That you lied.
You talked about the fact that Antoine, you made up this whole story that Antoine went and got the gun from your closet and all this stuff, but now we know he wasn't even there, was he?
No, he was not there. I was trying to protect my son. You just cannot accept that, ma'am. You cannot accept it.
Do you recall
Thanks, Karen.
being asked by the investigators why you tampered with evidence?
Can we clear up when that was?
First interview, page 41. In your first interview,
So she's going to keep saying, what you can't get, ma'am, is I was trying to protect my son. I was trying to protect my son. I was trying to protect my son. To me, it just came off that she was trying to protect herself. Okay. I'm not. So her lawyer is able to come back and he's able to redirect on some things. I didn't. So we'll just start with the verdict. Okay. And I can answer if you have any questions, let me know your questions and we'll go from there.
Everyone may have a seat. Waive the call for the state or the defense. If you could pass the verdict form up here, please, Mr. Morgan. Of this jury, is that correct? Yes. Understand the jury has reached a unanimous verdict as to each of the counts contained within this indictment. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If you would stand, please, sir. Ms. Howington, if you would stand and remarks as to the first count of this indictment charging felony, first-degree felony murder, as the jury reached a unanimous verdict.
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
And that verdict is what, please?
The jury find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of reckless homicide.
As to the second count, alleging aggravated child neglect, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of aggravated child neglect.
As to the third count, alleging aggravated child neglect, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
That verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of aggravated child neglect.
As to the fourth count, alleging, initiating, or filing a false report to law enforcement, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
That verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of initiating a false report to a law enforcement officer.
As to the fifth count, alleging tampering with evidence, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
That verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of tampering with evidence.
And as to the sixth count, alleging attempted tampering with evidence, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant Robin Rebecca Howington guilty of attempted tampering with evidence.
If that is your verdict, if you would signify by raising your right hand, please. Let the record.
So all the jurors raised their hand, and I think they did a phenomenal job. They took less than 2 hours, I think. So I found a report that said they started deliberating at 12:30 p.m. No, sorry, 12:20 p.m. and they had made up their minds by 2:15 p.m. And that was on multiple charges. And so I think she thought that she could sway the jury. And so there was no this so her testifying, they did not know who the shooter was. And her testimony brought in that it was, and I don't even know that it was true, but her testimony brought in that it might have been an accidental shooting by the 2-year-old. And because the prosecution is just saying this happened, so like before that came in, I don't believe there was any his name hadn't even been brought up. And I wish that they hadn't used his real name. I wish they had said, like G, or I wish they had used his initials and not his actual name. To me, that would have been actually protecting the child in this case. I hope he has a different last name. If he has the same last name, like I just wish the best for him. So the judge, there was a big conversation about why it couldn't have been. So she wasn't charged with second degree, and she wasn't charged. There was some conversation with the judge about why it couldn't be first degree, and why that charge wasn't with what she said, with the evidence that came forward. And if she's saying it was because they couldn't put the weapon in her hand, so they couldn't clearly say that it was her that did it either. And so I think that's why that's those were the charges that she could be found guilty of, I guess. I don't know. I don't even think they ate lunch, or maybe they talked while they ate lunch. Like I don't. It sounds like they deliberated, they were done, and that was that. People are thinking it might have included lunch. I don't know. Um, I do not know. Uh, I think her testimony, I don't think it helped her. And I wonder when they kind of polled everybody. So I think everybody could agree that yes, she definitely, because I'm surprised just didn't plead guilty to lying to the police. Like she clearly did that. From the 911 tape, it was false statement after false statement after false statement. And she tried to tamper, she broke her phone. She, tried to, get somebody to move the weapon. Like, to me, it was all about protecting herself, in my opinion. That's what I think it was all about. And it didn't sound like it was at all about protecting her child, either one. Because even the prosecution tried to make it sound like she waited 3 minutes before she even called. If it happened the way that she said, there was a 3-minute lag between her actually calling, because they have her on video going back into the house, and then 911 isn't called for 3 minutes. And she said that because I think the house had the apartment or wherever they lived, there were 2 living rooms, like a front living room, and then there was another living room. And that's when she tried to say that her phone, and I don't believe her for 1 second that she didn't know that her phone wasn't right on her. So my phone is always within arm's reach. Like, I don't I don't know about all that. I could be wrong, but I don't believe it. And it's just it was so hard. So hard. And Karen's right. It is up to the client to determine whether they want to testify or not. The lawyer should talk to them about the pros and cons of testifying. I think they tried to portray her as a PTSD victim, and the cops were so mean to her, and and she was so afraid, and that's why she lied. I think she had to try to explain some of that, and I think that's why she ended up testifying. The neighbor's ring camera showing her go outside in the bushes was crucial. Exactly. Yes, yes, yes. Um, I don't know if Karen is a defense lawyer, because somebody asked Karen in the chat if she would take a case like this. So I don't think Karen is like a criminal defense lawyer. Be sure to check out Karen's YouTube. Karen does. She's a mod here, and she does stuff. So just remain silent. Like, she would have been so if she had just stayed silent. Now, it does make you look a little guilty. Does that make sense? Like, it does. But anytime a situation like this happens, the immediate family members are going to be looked at, because what's most likely to happen is that somebody you knew, somebody like, and that's why a lot of times people are afraid of people, of like something from the outside. But often in situations like this, what's more likely, more common, is that it's somebody within the home. And so I hope that we take from this, make sure if you do have a weapon, be a responsible one. We saw in the Rust case. So the armorer in that case was just found guilty. And to me, in my opinion, she was negligent with her job. Like, it didn't seem like she cared. And the interview with the police, like, she's like, I don't know, she's almost like she's doing weird things. And like, she didn't seem to be taking any of it seriously, in my opinion. And she's not somebody that I would hire to like be in charge of like weapons. Like, I wouldn't have hired her. And she was found guilty in that case. And I didn't cover any of it. It was kind of a so Emily D. Baker did stream the trial. It was kind of boring. I hate to be like that. Some of the testimony was interesting, but there wasn't anything I thought that we could learn from it. So I didn't even talk about that one publicly. But yeah. Um I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.